What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Evernight Myriad Celestia trailer, Dear March 7th. I am a few days late to this, as I have been sick for like the past week. I'm still getting over it a little bit, so if I'm a little bit more sniffly or whatever, apologies. But regardless, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra, and let's get into this. What do you have in store for us, Evernight?
When the candlelight fades on the last day,
Ooh.
before you forget, please offer up your most precious memories.
The vibes are already immaculate.
Remember 97 days ago?
Oh?
On the first day after arriving in Amphorius, you already experienced this world's cruelty.
Oh?
You guided the Holy Maiden and helped her escape her initial fate.
What?
On day 14, day 36, day 70. You also never gave up on looking for your companions from beyond the sky.
She's been involved that long.
Until day 95.
Huh.
Still don't believe me? You're just a ghost that no one can see.
Interesting.
Besides, the Garden of Recollection has already torn off its benevolent mask.
Ah.
They lurk. They covet, brewing blasphemous plots.
Okay.
Are you willing to face me now?
Ooh.
Face your past. When you were born
Fooly.
from that shattered aluminum flux.
Born from.
When you were buried along with the remembrances line.
What?
When you were watched by the garden's pawns.
This is some fucking lore.
You don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Ooh, I love the music here.
That's what I was made for.
Ooh.
Melt the self and seep into the cracks of time.
Ooh.
The future that belongs to you is so blissful and pure. And yet, the remembrance chose, leaving Amphorius in nothing but a desolate midnight.
Ooh.
Fear not, I shall cleanse it all. Let the melody of oblivion resound from the eternal land. Day 97. Leave it to me. Time to say goodnight to the world. My dear March 7th.
I am so intrigued.
In a world restored to its flawless state, both your wish and my promise will be fulfilled.
Really?
To keep trailblazing forever with the Astral Express.
Ah, there it is. This is such an interesting Myriad Celestia trailer. There is some fucking lore in here. Largely speaking, it seems to be sort of pointing towards where perhaps the story is going, and where March has been. We've had it implied that March has been in Amphorius for a while now, but the context of how has been a question. But now we have the answer. She has existed in this world for a long time, or at least relatively speaking. She's been here for about 97 days, to be exact. And in those 97 days, she has been guiding people, helping people, the most notable of which being Tribios, which sort of brings a few things full circle for us. And that entire time, she was this invisible force. A ghost no one can see, is what Evernight describes it as. She went around helping people and looking for a way back to the Astral Express, and yet she couldn't find one. And then we introduce this idea of the Garden of Recollection tearing away its benevolent mask, as she describes it. And alongside this, we have the visual here of these sort of crystalline claws, very evocative of Black Swan's ult. We're leading to the idea that the Garden of Recollection is not nearly as kind or benevolent as it seems to be. Black Swan and the other members of the Garden may not have the purest of intentions for why they have guided us to Amphorius. At which point, with this established, we begin to explore the past of March, at least through the eyes and description of Evernight. Of course, we do not know much of Evernight and how much we can trust her, so we shall see how much of this is true or literal. Most interestingly to me is the fact that we have a visual of Fooly with the line, "When you were born from that shattered lumen flux," as Fooly breaks apart into various shards, obviously implying that March is born from the shattering of an aeon of Fuli. Of course, this is something interesting because as far as I know, we have no reference to Fuli shattering ever. I could be wrong about that. I could be forgetting some niche bit of lore, but assuming that this isn't something we've known about until now, is the Garden of Remembrance hiding the death or destruction of their own aeon that they follow? Based on the next line, it's entirely possible. March was born from the shattering of an aeon, and whether out of a panic at seeing their god die or part of a grander plan, the Remembrance, or the Garden of Recollection more specifically, lied and hid this truth away, and within that, hid away March, sealing her away perhaps, locking her away in some form that would not enable her to expose their lies despite being essentially the offspring of a god. And it's with this that Evernight asserts that regardless of if she can remember her past, regardless of if March can remember what was done to her, the sins of the Garden of Recollection, that is fine, because Evernight exists to remember and to protect. Melt the self and seep into the cracks of time is the line we have immediately following that. It perhaps is sort of a mission statement, a goal, a purpose of Evernight. She is some aspect of the self of March that hides away, discorporates itself until it is needed, seeps into the cracks of time itself, only to resurface when needed. That's the vibe I sort of get, but it also could perhaps be the idea that Evernight is the guardian of March, and March's purpose is to melt away and seep into the cracks of time, to sort of form as almost a glue to reform this shattered timeline, or something like that. If time is broken and shattered, if we refill those cracks, maybe it can be fixed, and perhaps March is that. But then I'm more inclined to think the first of those two interpretations based on the rest of this, given that between this and everything else we've heard, it really seems like Evernight wants to preserve March's closest held wish, regardless of what it means for anybody else or anything else. The future that belongs to you is so blissful and pure. Your wish to stay with the people you care about, your wish to forever journey the stars, it is so pure and blissful, and yet the Remembrance chose blank. There is another figure, another person, another being that the Remembrance chose, seemingly instead of March. It's at this point where we're getting intentionally vague enough that it's hard to say exactly what's being talked about here, but it speaks to me to this idea that there is some fate or destiny or future that is meant for March, that her future, her wishes, her goals are meant to be achieved and embodied, but instead of that, it was taken from her because the Remembrance chose something or someone else. Despite being born from the Remembrance did not choose her, which is very interesting as an idea. But then, interestingly enough as well, seemingly this choice also impacts Amphorius. It is what has left Amphorius in nothing but a desolate midnight. Perhaps the Remembrance and the Garden of Recollection have much more of a role to play in the state of Amphorius than we ever thought. But I suppose we'll just have to see. But despite all of this, despite everything that seemingly has been taken from March, all of the things that have been done to hold her back, to imprison her, to constrain her, Evernight shall cleanse. And we have this image of this crystalline version of a galaxy melting away into its true form. Let the melody of oblivion resound from the eternal land. It almost gives me that idea that Amphorius and some amount of the universe has been locked in memory and remembrance and hasn't been allowed to exist as it truly is, has been forced to not move beyond the memory of itself. And so this oblivion, in quotes, would set it free, resounding from Amphorius, perhaps sort of the linchpin of this crystal lock on the universe, and let things be as they should. That's what this speaks to me as. But who knows, it could also be a much more nihilistic oblivion. But regardless of what the actual result of Evernight's intentions, it is clear that what it will do will change the world drastically. In her words, it will be restored to its flawless state. Given that she is saying this while holding a picture of March with the Astral Express crew, and the next lines, it makes me think that this flawless state she is saying, in quotations, is what is flawless to March. She will restore the world into a form that March sees as perfect, being one where she can eternally and forever journey the stars on the Astral Express with her friends. But that is ultimately all I'm immediately getting from this trailer. There's a lot here, and inevitably I'm not grasping all of it perfectly, but that is sort of where my mind is at with the trailer, and it is incredibly interesting to me. But now, looking at the description, we have some interesting stuff here as well. Dear March 7th, arriving at Amphorius was never an accident. What we need to do is no different from before. Looking ahead, there's a desolate, ruined city, souls crying out in despair, and eyes that can no longer see the future. Looking back, there lies a crack in the melting memory, a thief peering into the unwanted, and a past impossible to escape. How should I move forward and continue to trailblaze the future? It's simple, just like what I did for you. Let oblivion allow the remembrance to slumber. Good night. Reading this, it's speaking in terms very similar to what we were having in the actual trailer itself, but this leads me actually to another idea. What if what Evernight represents and what March could be or is a nascent Aeon, born from the shattering of remembrance? What would come when memory itself fails? Oblivion. And the Garden of Remembrance witnesses this, witnesses the near birth of another apocalyptic Aeon, an embodiment of oblivion itself. Inevitably, a being similar in nature to that of the finality, the destruction, and the nihility. Likely most closely tied to nihility, but nonetheless. With their own god shattered into pieces and born from it, a potentially apocalyptic force. What does the Garden do? What do the Past Riders of Remembrance do? They seal it away. They seal away this being that will someday become an embodiment of oblivion if left unchecked, and hide its very existence. And perhaps in this process, place the universe itself, or at least part of it, into a stasis of sorts, potentially. Regardless of if they could stop oblivion, remembrance still has fallen, or is fallen. So they attempt to do what best they can. Remember, place things into stasis, keep things looping in a way much like Amphorius. Perhaps that is why Amphorius is the core of all of this. This is all just wild theory crafting from me, but I think that's possible. I think that could be what is happening here. But regardless of if I'm on the mark or way off, it just makes me incredibly excited to learn more once we get into the story, because I feel like if this is the kind of shit we're getting in a Myriad Celestia trailer for Evernight, imagine what we will be getting in the story itself. But with that, I think I've said enough for now, so feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Desaize and Pokelove101 at the normal tier, and Kano Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!